It's so cold outside that my nose is perpetually runny. It's very gross. So today we are going to do the Bookish Survey, which was created by the Perpetual Page Turner. I'm going to link the website that I found for that creator down in the description box. So yeah, since my channel is so new, I thought this would be a good way for y'all to get to know me as a reader. And so it goes from A to Z, and we're going to start obviously with the letter A. Author you've read the most from. Okay. So for most of these, I have two answers because I do what I want. But also, in a lot of these circumstances, the first answer is going to be the true answer, I guess the real answer. And I'm kind of ashamed of my real answers for some of these. So I'm going to try to redeem my character with a supplemental answer. So I could be wrong. So if I'm not counting, like the writers and illustrators of manga that I've read, I guess the author I've read the most books individually from in my adult reading life would be Frida McFadden. Because in 2024, last year, I read 9 of her books. And I did not do it purposefully. It was not like I'm trying to read her entire bibliography. That was not what that is. I don't know. I don't know. But that's not reflective of who I am as a person. Okay. But I do think if we're going to go more in the direction of content, so like the amount of pages, it would absolutely be George R.R. Martin, because I've read the entire A Song of Ice and Fire series, not including Fire and Blood, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm going to consider the answer in my heart to be George R.R. Martin, since I've read literally thousands and thousands of pages of his work, but technically it's Frida. Okay, so the next letter, B, best sequel ever. Once again, I'm not going to choose just one. My top 3, A Clash of Kings, the second book in A Song of Ice and Fire. What? Because if I'm not mistaken, this is the novel that has the Red Wedding in it. Ground. That is going to go down in literary history. We're all going to be old, and, our brains are going to be rattled with all sorts of futuristic diseases, and people are going to be doing think pieces on how the Red Wedding changed the entire trajectory, changed the entire You get my point. The Red Wedding, what? That was some crazy stuff. But also, Insurgent, which is the second book in the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth. When I tell you that this trilogy, the Divergent trilogy, had a gorilla grip on your girl, back when I was in college, I have multiple editions of the series. I went and bought the collector's edition. Okay, I loved that series so bad. I will say I've done a lot of growth, because for maybe like 6 or 7 years, I was convinced that I was going to get a giant back piece done, like a tattoo on my body, and the entire tattoo was just going to be like the Amity symbol. I've paid for my transgressions. Okay, it is what it is. So another one I threw on here is Death Note. I'm actually rereading Death Note. I haven't read it since I was 15. And considering my age, that is over half of my lifetime ago. And so I just thought it would be fun to reread it. And it turns out it is so much more amazing than I even remember it being. So I'm on the 3rd volume. Well, I just finished the 3rd volume, but this, I don't know, just so much happens even just in the 1st volume. But the 2nd volume, it doesn't let you breathe a single moment, girl. You can't get a word in. Okay, the second volume just cranks it on up, and I love it so much. I love Death Note. I can't wait to just, I'm probably gonna binge it for the next month or so. Next, what am I currently reading? I'm kind of juggling between a few things. I started Knock Knock Open Wide, and it's just kind of like it's doing some stuff, but the stuff that it's doing, I want more stuff. The stuff is just kind of sprinkled out, around the book. I need it to be like heavily slathered. And so I don't know. It's just kind of mid. I might give it one more shot to see if I'm going to get enough momentum to keep going, but this might be a DNF. I don't know. But I'm also definitely going to finish I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I don't typically read nonfiction, and so memoirs kind of go into that category for me, mostly because I read almost exclusively for escapism purposes. I don't want to be reminded of the real world and all of the terrible things that happen in reality. But I don't know, I just borrowed this on a whim yesterday from Libby, and yeah, wow, I see. I understand the hype. So I'm currently reading that, but I'm also physically reading Unsold by Will White. I've tried to read this a couple of times, but I think I finally got invested enough to where I'll be able to finish this. So it is a, what do they call it? Advancement leveling video game? Progression. It's a progression fantasy. I don't think I've read one before, and hopefully I do like this because there's so many more books in this series. I think there's 10 books in this series, so it would be awesome if this was something that, I ended up sticking with. All right, drink of choice while reading: water, wine, and coffee. However, wine, I think, is just more for the vibe than it is for the actual intoxication, because normally I just get sleepy, and you don't want to be sleepy while you're reading, so mostly just water and coffee. Sir, oh, by the way, so back when I did used to go to church, I went to this one church and they would give out the best merch. Like, honestly, I'm pretty sure there's people who still go to that church just for the swag. They gave out tote bags, backpacks, this really, really nice, thick, like large mug. You go for Jesus and you stay for the coffee mugs. What can I say? E-reader or physical book, both. And to be honest, it just depends on how accessible a book is, whether I can read it physically or not, because I don't live in the States, and I don't live in a place where English books are readily available. So it just depends on how accessible it is for me to get the physical book. But even if I do have access to a physical edition, sometimes it just, I don't know, sometimes I just start reading a book physically and it's just not doing it for me. But then for some reason, when I read it on my Kindle, I can just fly through it. And sometimes the opposite is also true. So I don't really have a preference, to be honest. There's some books I've thoroughly enjoyed reading on the Kindle and not physically, and vice versa. It just depends. So fictional character, you probably would have actually dated in high school. The only correct answer for me is 4 from Divergent. That's the only correct answer. Okay. The drama. I was that girl who thought she could fix all of the damaged boys. This is supposed to be about reading. The next one, glad you gave this book a chance. I recently read The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I still need to figure out how to say his name, but I don't know. I just randomly borrowed it from my library in my area. I really went into it thinking it was a fantasy novel, but it turns out it's more of a historical fiction, and I loved it so much. And I actually can't wait to get back into that world. I am trying to find some used copies on thrift books of both The Pillars of the Earth, and I think the next book is it the Column of Fire one? I'm not sure what the next one is called, but I'm trying to find a thrifted edition of it so I can purchase it and read it expeditiously. Hidden gem book. I'm gonna go with two. One I'm gonna talk about for the rest of my life. But I understand why other people aren't necessarily going to jump to read it. So the first one is Revan, which is a Star Wars Old Republic novel. I'm just obsessed with Star Wars. I love learning about Star Wars. I love feeling so immersed in the Star Wars universe, and this one is one of the best Star Wars books that I've read so far. And of course, I mean, the large population, the majority population of readers aren't reading Star Wars literature, but it's just so good. Even without the Star Wars lens on it, it's just great storytelling, and it's wonderfully thought out characters and plot and setting. Okay, I'm not gonna keep talking about it, but it's so good. But my next answer would be The Last One by Will Dean. I heard of this book. Well, yeah. So I saw this book on Kayla's channel over at Books and Lala. She was doing a reading vlog for it, and the premise sounded just too good to pass up. And I was so happy because I'm pretty sure it was on the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2024. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just projecting because I wanted that to be reality. But yeah, I really wish more people would pick this up. It's so twisty turny. However, I will say if more people start to pick it up, I think it's going to cause like a huge divide of people who either love it or hate it. I'm obviously in the crowd, people who loved it. All right. Important moment in your reading life. I think for me, one of the most important moments in my reading life was I had a friend and was he was recommending me to watch Game of Thrones, and I had never heard of it. And he said, I'm pretty sure it's actually based on books, so that might be something you're interested in. Now, I don't really watch TV or movies, and it's not for any particular reason other than a lot of them just don't interest me. I get bored very quickly. Trust me, I want to be the girly who is, caught up to date on all the TV shows and documentaries and all the movies. I don't know, my brain won't let me, and I don't know why. But anyways, with that being said, I'm not a big stickler on like, I have to read the book before I watch the adaptation. I don't care either way. But I did look into the books, and when I saw how big the books were in A Song of Ice and Fire, I said, child, ain't nobody got time for that. And so I asked myself, I wonder if people on the internet give reviews of books and I can read the review, because if I'm going to sit here and read an 800-page book, I'm going to need a guarantee that it's going to be good. And so I went on YouTube and I looked up Game of Thrones book reviews, and that is how I discovered BookTube. And so it just changed the entire dynamic of the relationship I had with books at the time. I got exposed to so many more books that I don't think I ever would have heard of. And obviously through BookTube, I also felt a part of a community, and I learned about so many different avenues of having access to books. So yeah, that's I think a very important moment in my reading life. What did I just finish? I can't talk. What did I just finish? I just finished Death Note Volume 3 and First Lie Wins by Ashley Easton, I believe. I'm considering doing a separate standalone review for First Lie Wins. I don't know though. I still don't know if I want to start doing wrap-ups every month or if I want to do standalone reviews, and then whatever I feel like I don't want to do a standalone review for, then do a wrap-up for that. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Okay, so am I skipping letters? Hopefully I'm not, because I'm not paying attention to what letter we're on. Okay, kinds of books you won't read. I think I think I'm finally at the point where I accept that contemporary romance is just not, it's not for me. Mostly just because of my own personal triggers, but I just don't think I could ever have a fun time reading contemporary romance. But also, as I've said before, I try to limit how much nonfiction I read within a year because I read for escapism purposes. However, I do think it's good for my brain to read things other than like, murder plots and dragons and, things like that. Longest book you've read is A Storm of Swords by George R. R. Martin, which is the third installation in the Song of Ice and Fire series, and it comes in at 1,177 pages. I have that number like drilled into my brain. I could pop out that fact off the top of the dome at any point in time. And I think it's crazy how this tag is just turning into me telling you how much I love A Song of Ice and Fire. It's my favorite series of all time, by the way, because it is the greatest series of all time. I'm confused as to why you're confused. Okay. Major book hangover because of life, honestly. And no, that's not the title of a book, just life. Just life puts me in a book hangover. But no, my real answer, I think the last book that genuinely just threw me for a loop in a bad way and I didn't want to read anything was probably Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell, I think is the writer's name. I don't know. I was just very disappointed and very underwhelmed because I had just probably like 2 or 3 months before read Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. So this book and Stolen Tongues were both short stories on, I think, like a subreddit, and it's called maybe like No Sleep or Creepy Pasta or something. I don't know. But these were both short stories on subreddits. I wonder if it says here. Yeah, this one was on the No Sleep subreddit. I'm not sure what Stolen Tongues was on. But long story short, I had just read this, and this did such a great job of becoming a full-fledged novel, and it felt like the author, when they wrote the short story, already had an entire story in their head, like an entire plot. Whereas Stolen Tongues, I think, even though I think I said this in my worst books of the year, maybe, I don't know, I probably said it in a separate video, but I feel like the problem with Stolen Tongues is I don't think there was enough material for it to be written into a full-length novel. I do agree that it needed a rewrite, and so I'm glad that the writer did that. But honestly, the whole second half of the book was just repetitive scenes and over explanations and reoccurring conversations. Nothing was actually happening because I don't think the writer had anything left for there to be written, right? It just needed to stay a short story, but the short story itself needed to be written, not rewritten and extended. So it put me in a really big reading slump. Number of bookcases you own. So I have these two short ones behind me, and then I have another one that's a very similar, maybe like a little, yeah, maybe like a little higher, but still like a small one that's in my bedroom. So three. And I keep books also on some floating shelves. I have, I think, two floating shelves in my living room that have a few books, but I don't rotate the books off of that. Those are just books that I'm not going to read again. They're the hardcover editions of a series of unfortunate events with like the deckled edges. So I have the spines turned inwards. So they just look decorative. Is that how you say that word? Because decorative don't sound right. So yeah, I don't really count those because I don't actually use those for book storage. I have three bookshelves, three small bookshelves. That is the answer. Okay. One book you have read multiple times. We haven't known each other long, but I think you already know where I'm going with this. A Feast for Crows by George R. R. Martin, which is the fourth book of A Song of Ice and Fire. This is a lot of people's least favorite in the series, and I get it because compared to the other books in the series, you're not following, I think, as many characters. A lot of people don't really fuck with Brienne the same way that I fuck with Brienne of Tarth, and I don't know, but when I tell you it is by far my favorite book in the series, I have reread that book so many times. In fact, what's crazy is I only just reread A Game of Thrones for the first time a few months ago. I don't think I've reread any other book in the series at all. I only ever reread A Feast for Crows for some reason. I don't know. I don't know. Preferred place to read. I don't know. And I feel like I need to create a better space, because sometimes I read in here, but this rickety, like super cheap IKEA chair that I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I stole it out of the basement in my building because someone was getting rid of it. This is not comfortable to sit in for long periods of time. And then out in my living room, my two little homies, they stay out there and they play with their friends and stuff. So I don't want to like be in their space. And obviously it's kind of hard to concentrate when like multiple children are having fun. So I don't sit in my living room to read. My room, if I get in my bed, I'm going to go to sleep. The only thing my bed is for being horizontal and to be experiencing beta and delta waves. Okay. I can't read in my bed. And then I have a reading chair. It's one of those like IKEA Poang chairs or whatever. And I don't know, that's not comfortable either. I guess at this point, my favorite place to read is at the damn kitchen sink doing dishes. I don't know, child. Audiobooks have been carrying the game for me for a little while. Quote that inspires you / gives you all the feels. I love this question. And I think I want to start incorporating, if I do standalone reviews, I might start incorporating my favorite or least favorite quote out of that book in my review, because I don't know. I really love quotes and how they can kind of give you a feeling of the gist or the vibe of a book. But a quote, in heavy meditation, when I think of me, I am me. When I think of me and you, I am me and you. When I think of you alone, I am not there anymore. When I think of God, I am God. What I see with my eyes closed and with my eyes open is the same stuff, brain circuitry. That is from Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. Now, here's the thing. Am I going to tell you to read Prometheus Rising? Absolutely not. It is an incredible novel in my opinion, but I also realize that this is not an easily digestible book. And I don't mean that in like oh my God, it's so high level, you just won't get it. I don't mean it in that way. Robert Anton Wilson is kind of like, you ever met that one like physics professor or something, or like, I don't know, just a super intelligent person, and they're trying their best to explain something to you in like layman's terms, but like their understanding of whatever they're the subject matter expert on is just so high level that even though they very clearly understand what they're talking about, you have no idea what the hell is going on. That is what it felt like reading this book. Like, clearly, Robert Anton Wilson has a very good grip on everything he was trying to convey in this book, but I'm not really sure if I understood even like 20% of it. So I definitely want to reread it in the near future. But the gems that I did get, the stuff that I did get. So I will say, it might be worth a read if you're familiar with the 8, the 8 circuits of the brain. I think Timothy Leary is the one who came up with that. If you're familiar with that, those are kind of like the backbone to this book. So that might be a little easier for you to grasp what the hell is going on. It's chaos. It's chaos in the best way possible. Like the random quotables in here, I have never felt so uncomfortable inspired, disgusted, and in awe of some of the things that were put in this book. Like it's problematic and aspirational at the same time. At the same time. It's kind of like, you know what? No, because I almost said something crazy. Next, reading regret. I think I actually regret not reading as much young adult in the 2010s. So I discovered BookTube in the 2010s. I think it was maybe 2013 or 2014 when I discovered BookTube. And I mean, I know it wasn't like by choice, but at the time I didn't have access to most of the books that I saw being mentioned on BookTube. The library in my area was just one big room, right? And so the books they had were mostly, wow. So most of the books they had were from like the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. They didn't really have newer books. And so a lot of the books that were mentioned on BookTube were not new enough for my library to have it. And then even the books that they did have, they had just such a small selection. And I, at the time, was, a college student who was working part-time, first as a hostess at a pizza place and then as a barista. So of course I couldn't afford to buy books. And so unless it was something that I could get through Overdrive or I could find at a thrift store, then I just wasn't able to read it. And so I'm actually considering if I want to do like a BookTube Darlings kind of project where I read a lot of the books that I wish I could have read back when I was a young adult. The only issue is I know for a fact that a lot of that didn't age well. If you watched my worst books of 2024 video, you know that I read Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I feel like Obsidian was a good a good representation of a lot of the shit that was going down in books in the 2010s, because oh my god, I remember people talking about the Lux series nonstop back then. So I don't know, just something I'm thinking about. Series you started and need to finish. I don't feel like I need to finish anything because I read what I want. I don't do this as like a job. I don't know. I don't feel like I need to really finish anything. 3 all-time fave books. See, what I should do is just pick my 3 fave books from A Song of Ice and Fire, but I'm not going to do you like that. Because the purpose of this is for you to get to know me. Okay, so I will say that my first all-time favorite book is A Feast for Crows by George R. R. Martin. But my second, I think I'm going to say, is Divergent. Because it had such a heavy impact on me, not only as a reader, but as a person. I don't know what that connection was between me and the protagonist Triss, but I don't know. I felt it on a cellular level. It really changed my whole outlook on life in general, and it was a very influential novel for me. Now, will I ever go back and reread it? Sometimes I feel like I should. But then I know I risk the chance of being disillusioned, so I might just live in, nostalgia for this series. And then the third one would be The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I will say I tried to reread it in 2024, and I don't think I was in the headspace to reread it. It is definitely a book where you can't be reading other things at the same time. You have to just let that be your full-time growl. She gotta be your main with no side before you're able to like really understand what the hell is going on. And it's been probably almost 10 years since I read The Grace of Kings. And so, yeah, I really do want to reread it because I haven't finished that series, by the way. So I do want to go ahead and read the rest of the books, but I feel like I would need to reread The Grace of Kings. Well, no, I think someone said I don't need to because it's more of like a prequel than an actual, beginning of the series, but I still want to. So yeah, that's my third favorite of all time. Yeah. Okay, yes. Unapologetic fangirl. So, okay. to, instead of saying I'm an unapologetic fangirl, I'm going to kind of twist this question into being an unapologetic apologist? Or by nature, does being an apologist mean that you're unapologetic? Anyways, I will defend the terribleness that is a lot of Frida McFadden's books till the day that I die, because I feel like the same space that trashy soap operas and, really crappy sci-fi movies and shit, the same spaces that those hold, we can hold for Frida McFadden. Once again, I had like 2 or 3 of her books in my worst books of 2024 list, and it wasn't because, I was disappointed. It's just because they were bad. They were just very, very bad. And there's other bad books that I didn't include in my worst books of 2024. It's just those were the worst of the worst. But I don't know. I just still feel like every time she releases a book, I'm going to read it. I read The Boyfriend the first 48 hours it was out, okay? And when The Crash comes out, I think later this month, I'm going to be in there like swim well. I don't know what it is. It's just, I know I'm losing brain cells with every turn of the page, but you can't stop. Did I just describe drug addiction? Okay, the next one that I'm just an unapologetic fangirl for is specifically Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I think I own a couple of her older titles that I haven't read yet, but I be seeing people try to set her up about this book. Girl, this book was the drama. This book had the gossip. This book had the backstabbings and the betrayals. This book had the twist ending. What more do you need? What more do you need? Also, I will say I do enjoy more bonkers level, thriller and mysteries because I do read for escapism. And so that kind of is what this is. But I just love it so much. We don't take any Local Woman Missing slander, and we don't take any rock, paper, scissors slander. Stop it. Yes, I know it don't make any sense, but okay. Last but not least, I am also an unapologetic fangirl for Riley Sager. I have not read his more divisive books, and I'm not going to because I want to stay where I am in this delusion. I will not read Middle of the Night. I will not read Survive the Night. I will not. What is the other one that everyone throws tomatoes at? But those two in particular, I'm not going to read Survive the Night or Middle of the Night. Apparently, he need to stop doing stuff in the night. He need to quit being up in the middle of the night. He need to quit trying to survive the damn night. Leave the night alone, Riley Sager. You are not a night owl. It's okay. It's okay. Also, can I just throw in a bonus thing? Just a bonus thing. I am an unapologetic. Am I inventing a religion? Unapologetic? Okay. I am an unapologetic fangirl for Taylor Swift, and I will take no more questions at this time. Okay. Very excited for this release. I am very excited for With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. I think we're going to get back to what we love about Riley Sager. I'm glad that he got whatever Middle of the Night was out of his system. I see that the girlies did not like that. And I'm pretty sure he took notes and he is moving forward. So I'm very excited to read. I don't even know what it's about. And to be honest, I think I want to go into it blind. So don't talk to me about it. Don't talk to me about it. Also, another release that I'm very excited for is The Winds of Winter by George R. R. Martin. I don't care what anyone says. It's coming out in 2025. 2025. It's our time, guys. It's our time. I am wholly convinced that no matter when it comes out, whether it's this year, next year, or 3 years from now, okay, that's the cap. I'm not going to believe that it's going to be more than another 3 years, okay? But I am thoroughly convinced that when it does come out, he's going to pull a Beyonce and he ain't going to say nothing. Him and his teammate gonna say nothing. We just gonna walk into the bookstore one day, and the girl is gonna be like, "Oh, what's that on the horizon?" And it's gonna be the winter. It's just gonna be sitting on the shelf, and the internet gonna go crazy. I swear to you, the way I would lie and take off work, I would just leave my job. I'm probably going to walk out of my job. That's an exaggeration. I will wait till lunchtime, but you get the point. You get the point. I am so excited for this to happen. Because here's the thing. If they give a release date, there is no way, there is no way that us bookish people are going to be cool about it. We're going to be so weird about it. People are going to be buying 30 copies of it just to sell them for $400 on eBay. Like, we're not going to be okay. So yeah, they're going to have to do like a silent release, and I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited for it. I'm going to start making t-shirts because I'm ready. I'm speaking it into existence. 2025, Winds of Winter is dropping. Allegedly. Worst bookish habit. I cannot keep up with a bookmark to save my life. I visit my library, I want to say like twice a month, and they always have free bookmarks like laid out on the counter when you walk in. I think 3 or 4 every time I go. Every time I go. And right now, I've been using socks. I've been using these little tabby tabs as bookmarks. And okay, please don't call the constable. Please. I'm trying to be vulnerable when I tell you this. Currently, in my physical edition of Unsold, I'm using my Kindle as a bookmark. I feel like using a Kindle as a bookmark should like break the time-space continuum. So yeah, if it is a physical book that I own and I'm reading it, I will dog ear the hell out of a page. I don't care. I can't keep up with the bookmarks. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I eat them or I just throw them away. I don't know what I'm doing. X marks the spot. Start at the top left and count to the 27th book. Well, here's the thing. So not only are my bookshelves very tiny because I don't own a lot of physical books, but also I do not like storing books vertically. It drives me crazy. I don't know why we let that be the end all be all of storing novels. It doesn't even make any sense, from an inventory preservation point of view. Because if it has a dust jacket, you're adding stress to the edges of the dust jacket and to the spine of the novel. I don't know. So I have all my books. Well, not all of them, because the ones on top are vertical. But I have most of them vertically. So I'm sure the point of this is to go from left to right. However, I guess I'm going to go like up, down, up, down. I mean, okay, before we move on, and I will find the 27th book on my bookshelf. Does it not feel weird to y'all when you're in the bookstore, you're in the library, and you're trying to read the titles of the spines, and you're just like, because the title is sideways. I don't like it. I can clearly read. I can. It's like this. You can just see it. You can see it. Why would we say that that's okay? Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Let's do this. I'm not going to bring you with me because that's too much. Okay. Wait, top left, right? Top left and count. Yeah, I guess we'll go like this. Okay. Wait, I think I lost count. Okay, so my 27th book, and I went up, down, and then I went back up through the middle and then came back up to the top. This is my 27th book. Okay. So, yes, I know the question that you have, and I understand, and I'm going to answer that question, but also leave me alone and mind your business. Okay. So, when I moved from South Carolina when I was 27. I spent my entire life in South Carolina. And when I moved from South Carolina to Texas, I did not pack all of my belongings and move them with me until later, right? So since I wasn't physically in South Carolina to pack all of my things, I had my mom pack all my stuff and then it was shipped to me, right? However, before I left South Carolina, I vividly remember I went to my local library, the one I had gone to my entire life. I mean, they moved into a much bigger building, but I had gone to that same branch my entire life. And I remember it was like such an emotional experience because it was like, oh my God, this might be the last time I ever stepped foot in here. I grew up here, you know, all those emotions. And I swear I thought I packed all of the books and brought them to the library. But I guess I didn't because I got to Texas and I wasn't going to unpack any of my books actually. But then I was like, you know, I can definitely downsize. A lot of these books I don't want anymore and I have no intention of reading them. And I opened up one of the boxes and how did I miss the single largest book that is like in my collection? But I don't own a book much bigger than this. Like, how did I? So I called them and I was like, hi. But luckily they were super cool about it and I offered to pay for it and they were like, no worries, it's fine. I felt so bad. And so now I just have this. No, I haven't read it. But thank you to everyone over at the Sand Hills branch of the Richland County Public Library. Y'all are amazing. I wouldn't be the human I am today without your library system. Thank you and I love you. I did not know. I promise you I did not know. I'm so sorry. Your latest book purchase. So I don't feel like going in my room and getting it. I got the big, sexy, floppy paperback edition of Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. Like I said, I haven't read it yet, but I'm waiting to finish my reread of the entire series before I read Fire and Blood. So I'm very excited about that. And that is what I am using to tide me over until Winds of Winter drop 2025, allegedly. So yeah, that is my most recent like actual purchase. However, yesterday when I went and visited my library, there is a book swap shelf. And so you can leave books and people can take them to own for free. And yeah, sometimes I drop off books, sometimes I pick up books. And yesterday I saw something very interesting. This is a few of the Penguin Modern collection. I believe there's 50 books in this collection, but this is what was left on the shelf. I'm not sure if someone left all 50 because I don't know if you can buy these individually. I think you have to buy the whole set. So I don't know if someone left the entire set and this is just what was left or if this is what they decided to get rid of. I don't know. But we have Catherine Ann Porter, The Cracked Looking Glass, Primo Levi, The Survivor, William Carlos Williams, Death the Barber, Saul Bellow, Leaving the Yellow House, Truman Capote, The Duke in His Domain, Hans Fallada, Why Do You Wear a Cheap Watch? Well,
that ain't none of your business, Hans.
Damn. Okay. Jack Kerouac, Peers of the Homeless Knight. Is that it? Homeless Knight? Okay. Oh gosh. This font is so crazy. Okay. Cyprian Ekwenzi, Glittering City. I'm only saying all of these because I want y'all to tell me if you read any of these and if you think any of them are worth my time. John Berger, The Red Tinda of Is this baloney? Francois Sagan, the gigolo. It can't be the gigolo. The gigolo. Chinua Achebe. Wait, have I read something by them? Did they read that book I had to read in school? I believe they did. Things Fall Apart, and I did not like Things Fall Apart. But this is Africa's Tarnished Name, so we'll see if I like this. This is Kathy Acker's New York City in 1979. I bet it was dirty and smelly as hell. And then this is Susan Sontag's Notes on Camp. I also saw when I looked it up that there are some that have, I think, Martin Luther King's letters, some of his letters, I can't remember like which ones. And yeah, it seems like a lot of interesting things. So I'm excited. I might just throw these in, throughout the year. Maybe I'll read like one a month or something just to up my Goodreads count, my book count, my numbers. Hello, what am I saying? And I think this is the closest to classics that I will get, because these technically aren't classics, but this is as much as I'm willing to stretch my brain in this capacity. Last but not least, we have catching some Z's. Okay. The last book that kept you up late, and that was absolutely The Arrangement by Kirsten Moglin. That is the most chaotic mystery thriller I've read in a while. This was a buddy read for me with a dear friend of mine. And I don't know if it's necessarily because of the book itself or if it's more because of the experience I had reading it with a friend. But Peter and Ainsley are the protagonists of this story. And when I tell you, in the fictional world, Peter and Ainsley need to be on a list. They need to be on a list. But with that being said, the person who created these characters, Kirsten Moglin, she needs to be put on a list. Because the things that she came up with, it's like, ma'am, you seem a little well-versed in this. You seem a little knowledgeable on the subject matter at hand. She got some splaining to do. She needs to be on somebody's list. She needs to be surveilled. Okay. But I thoroughly enjoyed that book. If you can read this, I highly recommend trying to read it in like a one sitting kind of thing, so you can just power through it. The Arrangement was a great time, and I highly recommend reading it. It was bonkers, just in the way I needed to be bonkers. Just in the way I needed to be bonkers. Thank you so much for watching today's video. This was actually a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope that you had some sort of entertainment out of watching me giggle into the camera, and that maybe you have some recommendations for me. And if you want me to, I can give you maybe some recommendations down in the comments as well. Thank you for your support, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.